And he's going for the win with a rook less.
Is Gukesh showing some fierce confidence here?
This is unbelievable.
Oh, we can see from the footage Ding leaning back.
One of those very scary black pawns has been taken off the board. Now Ding can end this game by trading the queens.
We see the handshake in Singapore. Game 8 is a draw. The world champion and his challenger are finally putting on a show in Singapore. They are still tied after 8 games in the World Chess Championship match, but Game 8 was a thriller. Welcome everyone to the Take post-game show, and let's bring in our very first pundit who's been chilling on the beach today. Magnus Carlsen, this must have been a great game to be entertained by on the beach.
Yeah, you know what? This was the first time that I actually watched any video during the games. So like this was the first day that I had time to like follow it a lot live, so that was very enjoyable. And there was like I tuned in at a moment when you were asking about emojis and Hammer went put like an alien emoji on our rook on E4, so that was quite funny, and he had like this really bemused look, and then but you guys were getting into it, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
It was a lot of fun to watch Game 8. And let's also bring in pundit number 2, Levy Rosman. How are you doing today, Levy?
I'm great. I remember when you first showed me emoji chess back in Paris in September, and I'm a teenager at heart. So the first one I thought of is where are we going to put the peach and the eggplant? I will let the chat break that down. But yeah, Kaya, today was a great game. The last 2 games have been like a real boxing match. A lot of back and forth action. The last 2 games have been the most exciting and interesting, I would say, of the match. So you can't ask for much more.
Exactly. And we actually did have a boxing glove emoji on the board today as well. Before we jump into the game and go through the thriller of Game 8, I want to show you something from the press conference. Let's hear what Ding and Gukesh said right after the game.
But today during the game, I didn't realize I was winning at some point. Yeah, I think he missed some important details. Let me get back to the game. Before that, he would totally outplay me again. And actually, I didn't feel so much nervous during the game. I just feel uncomfortable out of the opening.
Yeah, actually, this position where I didn't repeat, I didn't think I was in much danger. So, I always thought with this weak king and my strong pawn on b3, I should have play. I thought maybe even I might have some chances, but okay.
But okay, says Gukesh. So let's go into the game where Ding says he is uncomfortable out of the opening. Gukesh's team able to surprise Ding again. Magnus, what did you think out of the opening?
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. It's not an opening I'm an expert on by any means, but Peter was at some point watching the Sessa analysis, and it's said this weird line where Gukesh takes back with the knight and then moves his F pawn, which was like quite clearly the top line of Sessa. And I told Peter, like, that's a bit weird. People usually take back with the queen, develop the knight to a more natural square. And Peter was like, yeah, Gukesh is going to play knight e7 and f6. Like, he just seems to know everything in these, even in like slightly offbeat. Like, I'm guessing like this is one of the sort of more popular variations of the English opening, which Ding, after all, does play quite a bit, so it's not that shocking. But still, first of all, it's impressive the preparation he's found. And also, I love the concept. You just give up a bishop, but you just build this like very, very harmonious center. Also, because the bishop is not there, you have a little bit more space for your remaining pieces. And yeah, I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of what he did once again. The job that I did watch the press conference, and I did notice that Gukesh did thank his team after the game today,
Mhm.
and he should because they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, it was after this moving the pawn, that he said what's part of his opening prep, and he said a big thank you to his team. So amazing opening work by Team Gukesh here, Levy.
For sure. I was able to take a look at this position as it was going on. This type of approach was played actually by the Greek Grandmaster Theodorou, the one who just recently gave Fabiano Caruana his only loss in the US Masters tournament. Fabi then won with 8 out of 9. But yeah, Theodorou has played like this. Theodorou actually plays a lot of very interesting ideas with black. He's quite well prepared. Some might know him as the legendary Kriari, who has played Hikaru in some thousands of online blitz games. Yeah, I was also actually quite interested in the opening because I myself had to prepare. If we back up to this like bishop b4 just on the second move against the legendary Pia Kramling, Magnus gave me some advice for that match. She plays this line, and I found it very annoying to deal with, to be honest. Like it's really not a bad line, and leads to some super interesting positions. So if anybody's looking for an English weapon, an anti-English weapon, I should say, bishop b4, bishop b7 seems to be very reliable.
Okay. Should we move forwards then? When do we get out of the opening here? When does Gukesh as well start thinking? When is he out of his prep?
No, but this is the interesting part. I feel like we leave the opening very early.
I'm
And
sorry about that.
that's what made the last two games very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
that we're basically getting right into the middle game, and not to be not to be the dead horse. This is why I advocate for playing freestyle at a longer time control, because you do get these sorts of interesting games basically every single time, and you get a position for Ding where I imagine he can't have been too unhappy about it. Yes, Gukesh is evidently really prepared, and he has a nice harmonious position, but on Ding side, like you're feeling like, well, I cannot be worse, obviously. And I have a bishop pair. I have a ton of different plans. I have so much to look forward to, honestly. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're basically getting right into the middle game. Ding mentioned in the press conference that he had ideas like grabbing space on the queen side immediately, and then he was like, "Well, I'm just gonna castle," which I think was very relatable for a lot of amateurs as well. This sort of, should I do this? No, I'm just gonna do the most obvious thing.
Can
Here's
confirm
a
that.
little here's a little tidbit. Sorry to cut you off, Kaya. Yeah, Magnus, you're saying this is already kind of like a bit like freestyle chess. So it turns out that on the Lichess database, 1 in 6 billion games reach this position.
Whoa.
So this is the second one. There you go. How about that for a statistic?
Yeah, that's mind
Take that for
blowing.
data.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, and then I mean, yeah, obviously, I actually in my like I was recording, the Gotham recap, and I said to me this was the most interesting game so far of the match. Like yesterday was very fascinating, but yesterday Ding forced the issue very early in the opening, and today it felt like play could have gone a million different directions. I mean, we could really analyze every move for like 5 to 10 minutes, but I don't know if we want to do that. So I don't know. What's the next critical moment in your opinion, Magnus?
Yeah, let's jump a few moves ahead when Ding went through this plan with moving the knight and then pushing his F pawn. Um, so there were tons of ways for White to play. Like he could have gone for D4 at any moment, put the knight on E. When the knight goes on E1, he could potentially go to D3 as well. But it's mainly about which pawn break do you want to go for as white. Do you want to go for f4, or do you want to go for d4? Because even though your bishops are really good and you're exerting some pressure on the center, you still want to challenge the black center with not only with pieces but with pawns at some point. And the the line that Ding went for, like it looked to me it just felt really risky. Uh, because Gukesh's play is so harmonious and Ding's pieces are sort of scattered around. Yes, he does have potential. He has the bishop pair and he has a large preponderance of pawns in the center, so it's not like he has nothing to hope for, but things can also it can also go wrong, and playing against somebody like Gukesh who's so good at calculating, like it feels like you can blunder something at any moment. So this was, I would say, like an encouraging sign for Ding that he goes for something that's a bit risky once again early in the game. But I wasn't sure it was a great choice stylistically.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if if we want to just, because like I said, there's so many fascinating moments to analyze. I will say f4 was possible, d4 was possible, playing it slower was possible. Ultimately, though, it's sort of a perfect position for Gukesh because Ding has to burn a lot of time to ultimately choose a plan, and yet Gukesh still managed to outplay him and managed to get to a really great position. I actually said Gukesh probably the 20 moves past the opening until the 25th move. We don't have to just sort of rush there, but I felt like it was the best 20 move stretch of any of the players in the entire match.
Wow.
He played well and fast. And Magnus, feel free to disagree and say that he could have. I mean, I will obviously defer to you, but it felt like he was playing great practical chess. And suddenly, like, something shifted. But we can go slower to that point, too.
Yeah, I would say that first of all, his preparation was good, and after that, like you said, there were choices, but he was at the very least keeping it quite fast. I think his move, like he didn't do anything special in those moves, so I'm not gonna. I wouldn't necessarily agree that he was his best stretch. I think yesterday's stretch was better because those moves were harder to find, and they also brought him more of an edge. But let's jump quite far ahead actually to the moment where Ding plays his move Rook to B1. A lot of things could be said about those moves earlier, but the balance wasn't like seriously disturbed at any point. There's still this situation where Ding, as I said, like has a preponderance of pawns in the center, but his pieces are less coordinated, um, and he has several weak pawns that he has to attend to. So uh, let's go before this move. Um, Yeah, so here the balance hasn't really been disturbed at all, and for all the sort of praise you can heap on Gukesh, like Ding is also he's gotten himself a fine position. Um, it's all good, but his next move was a bit of a worrying sign, and it was also a bit atypical, really, because Gu Ding, as Levy said, like his it's not even about the complexity. Like Dane just he has his time, he spends his time. He's gonna spend 1.5 hours for the first 18 to 20 moves, regardless of what happens, it seems. If he has the time, he's gonna spend the time. What he's doing, calculating, hesitating, I think it's a bit of all of them, but it seems that he's gonna spend it regardless. But here he actually made a very quick decision. And he made a move that is far from far from obvious. Uh, and it's also like a very, I would say, quite basic blunder.
Mhm.
So this was a really really weak moment, and that's usually a bad sign when you sort of feel that you have to rush a bit. Let's
Mhm.
just make a natural move, and then exactly the moment you rush, you make a bad move. This hasn't really been typical for Ding in this match. So this was a little bit surprising,
So,
but
so you call
yeah,
this a blunder, Magnus? this rook move is a blunder?
It is a serious inaccuracy.
Okay, I can
That's
hit
what I would say.
I can hit mistake then. I have
Yeah.
so many cool buttons here, you guys. So when you have like mistakes, blunders, great moves, I can hit the buttons. I have take
I'm just
also.
gonna. Yeah, I want to just quickly jump in and say that, Magnus, I don't know if you realize, like, there is now a strategy almost for Gukesh. Around the 20th move, when Ding has burned 3/4 of his time, he will default to a move that is a rook moving 1 square to just like improve his position slightly optically. Yesterday he played rook d7, and then Gukesh went for rook a5. It's just kind of funny. Like, you get to a moment, you kind of know Ding is going to move a piece 1 square, and that might be your chance. It's the sample size is too small, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, when he went rook to 7 yesterday, he didn't have his position was also already quite difficult. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can see your point. It was the sort of the same idea. Well, I gotta make a move now because I burned all of my time. But yeah, this is really quite unfortunate, and this is why having a little bit of an exposed king is a problem, because you do sometimes expose yourself to tactics like what happened on the next moves with Gukesh that wouldn't have happened if there was let's say a white pawn on f2 protecting the king. So specifically because of this, he hasn't really felt the weakness of the king at all, but now he does it, and Gukesh uses that to make tremendous positional gains. And I think the way that Ding responded as well was um it was slightly panicky. I mean, when you make this move, c takes b5, like either you're sort of sure, or I don't really think you can make the move, because if it doesn't work tactically, then you just lose. Like you just lose on the spot. Like there's Black just wins the game automatically by winning the a pawn and pushing his pawns. Like there's just it's very simple. So I would have loved to see some kind of winning move there for Ding instead, where like Queen D2, for instance, improving his queen and asking Gukesh, basically saying I messed up, but I still have a bishop pair. If you want to close the position with b4, yes, you've gained something strategically by moving a pawn that was somewhat weak on its initial square to now being a potential pass pawn. But I'm still solid. And if you want to trade pawns, then my bishops come a bit alive, and um, you know, I have very good drawing chances. So I think this was not a great decision by Ding. I know that he said in the press conference that he had missed something later on, which we can get to. But I think this was a really, really weak moment for him.
And at this point, Gukesh is getting into the game. I guess not winning yet, but this is looking really good for Gukesh. In the live show, we were talking a lot about those 2 pawns. That looked amazing for Gukesh.
Yeah, I don't really know how obviously you can just protect the pawn now. Like, if just looking at the position, there are moves such as queen d2, queen c2, rook b2, and rook a1. Rook b2, you basically discard immediately. Rook a1, you kind of, I don't know. And I guess Ding decided, okay, bring it on, kind of like, waving a red flag in front of a bull. Like, okay, you can take my pawn, but this is my best practical chance. And here there was this moment after, the pawn falls, bishop d4, he wants to activate his pieces. So here I really want to pick Magnus's brain. Like, obviously, knight ac5, I can understand, because you bring the knight from the edge of the board. It's not, to me, even it looks pretty natural, and I know that it was not the best move. But Magnus, and I know, I feel like I know the answer. It's going to be Gukesh didn't like something because he's a concrete guy. But after knight ac5 and rook c1, the move bishop b3, forcing the queen to the dark square diagonal, still kind of blows my mind. Like, I know I'm here and I'm not there, but I'm like, isn't this exactly what white wants? But I guess he just didn't want the queen on c2. That's basically the point, right? So he liked this version better. But here I was very confused.
Yeah, there are obviously a few points there. First of all, Ding said that he had just missed that the knight couldn't block after knight c5. He just looked at moving the queen, and then you win either the b pawn or the a pawn, and then white is generally going to be at the very least okay. Uh, uh, I would generally agree with you, but what Gukesh did say after the game is that he had just completely sort of blanked on the move Queen E1. He'd focus his attention on the move Queen D2, which feels natural. You generally want to move the queen to the square that feels sort of more active, but in this case, and then he was actually correct that after Queen D2, he would have been quite actually easily winning after the move before. So I don't know what to add, Levy. It was concrete calculation. It is. It has been a bit of a recurring weakness. I guess there is some sort of argument to be made, as you said, for king safety, also not moving the knight out of the middle, that you want to bring the knight from a from the a6 square instead of the d7 square. But this should be Gukesh's strength, right? That he will calculate both moves, and he will see that one move has a tactical flaw that the other one doesn't, and then he will make the other move. Maybe he's been listening to us too much and wanted to make the more natural
Probably
move.
you. I feel like he might mute when I speak, but yeah.
I don't know really. But I've had positions like this myself when you calculate for a bit, like you understand that I'm like either almost winning or my my opponent is fine. There's nothing really in between.
Can I
And
just quickly ask,
you sort of
what is
feel
the
like if I can
tactical?
calculate this,
Oh, sorry,
sorry.
we had a weird audio desync there. I was just saying, what is the tactical? You said there's a tactical deficiency of his move blocking with one knight versus the other. Um, can you elaborate? Because even I don't understand
Yeah, yeah.
fully.
No, this is very simple. The knight on d7 is vulnerable to attack by the white light square bishop by bishop to h3. The other knight is not, and that is basically the whole justification for why you want to move the knight from d7 to c5. And if you gave Gukesh this as an exercise, he would solve it easily because he would sit down and calculate this, and like he would realize, I think he would realize that. But during the game with the nerves and everything, all is not so all is not so simple, really. And yeah, then it's clear that Queen E1, as you said, it was just a complete miss. Kudos to Ding for actually he got his act together here. When his moves are sort of simple and natural, he doesn't really mess about. He just plays them very very quickly. So here, yeah, he really started fighting well.
Yeah. The bar is down to balanced at this point. Gukesh has also then made some mistakes. And we are starting to get into time trouble at this point. But Ding plays better and better the less time he has. What does that tell us? His intuition must be working.
Yeah.
Well, he's a really good chess player, but
Yeah, but
that's
with the lack of confidence that he's experienced over the last the last year basically. Isn't like
Ding
intuition
is
the
a
first
very
thing?
good con. No, but I remember I've heard this from other people as well. One of Peter Heine's best friends in chess, Jan Gustafsson, he's been telling this story about how he's playing a team event and his team really needed him to win. But he's like he was the founder of their podcast, the Chicken Chess Club, and he said like when he sees a possibility to repeat the moves, it's just so tantalizing for him that he like almost cannot he almost cannot refuse it because like this is another game not lost, which is basically the goal when he plays chess. And it seems that Ding is thinking a bit of the same way sometimes where I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but it's like I just want to not lose. Can I please just well, there's some danger here. Can I please just repeat moves and get out of here? And obviously like he has really good faces. When he doesn't think about this stuff, then he usually plays quite well.
He is much better on the evaluation bar at this point. At this point, Ding is basically winning the game. So what happens, you guys?
It's not so
Yeah, I
simple.
mean,
no?
there's
Like,
first one ridiculous moment.
Let's go to ridiculous moment.
What did you cover this in your recap, Levy? 91? What did you
yeah,
say
well,
about this? I'm really curious.
that is that's the moment. I mean, it's pronounced Sesse, right? Like that engine. If we go forward here, a couple moves, Ding plays all. This was actually predicted by Naroditsky and Leko that this would happen, and they showed this moment where instead of knight d4, let's back up one move, the knight goes to e1, and black is frozen like Elsa. Like you just can't.
Let
You
it go.
can't. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to let the pawns on A and B go. And they have to run forward. But black is my one of my former coaches, Wojciech Miranda, Polish grandmaster, used to call this a time stop. Like the time stops in the game, and somehow black cannot make a single move, and white just has this plan of d4, d5. But the point of 91 is it's not even an aggressor; it's just protecting the king. And level of difficulty, Magnus, 1 to 10 in a real game, not a puzzle session.
Yeah, I think it's as close to a 10 as you get.
Wow.
But this is an absolutely disgusting computer move, and I just like I both hate it and I'm really fascinated by it at the same time.
So you would never make that move?
No, I mean I think I could get to it. I'd like to think so. Otherwise, I shouldn't be playing chess at all, really. If I cannot get like there is logic. It's not like you see the move and 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 you're like what there is a very concrete idea like you want to protect the king against checks by the rook, so it is logical, and then you see black moves the bishop to prevent the attack with d4 and then d5, then you go bishop h3, and there's also sorts of bishop attacks like it's not hard to calculate once you see it, but the problem is just hitting on the move, and sort of for that, I think Dean. First of all, it would be great if it was a puzzle session and not a real game, but he'd also like need to realize that knight d4 and knight c6, which gives him pretty much risk-free position where he's considerably better, is not the best line after he's been in a situation just I don't know 6 7 moves ago where he was worried that he was going to lose by force. That's a tough task. So I mean I've been a little bit critical of decisions they made early in this game, but honestly, this is, I mean, for me, just the culmination of Ding's comeback in this game, which I thought was really impressive.
Okay. What's next, you guys, in this game? I mean, much better for Ding at this point. Should he win this game?
Yeah, let's go forward. All this makes sense. This was what he went for. It's very like practically speaking, this looks very very decent. And now his next plan I thought was also quite smart. King E1. Yesterday King E1 was kind of a questionable decision. Although Magnus, I don't know if you saw, sometimes we get a little bit in trouble on this recap. I get in trouble because I'm the lower rated one. And so sometimes people say, oh, how can you criticize them about King E1? Ding himself said after King E1, he was like ready to resign yesterday. He resigned himself to defeat. Now today, King E1, to go King D2 to enable the movement of the bishop actually made great sense. But then he changed the plan completely. Like on the next move, he went Queen D4, allowing knight E5. I mean, allowing, even though it looks like it's not possible. So, yeah, maybe this is the critical moment, and we can address why Queen D4 instead of King D2. He thought he was maybe stopping knight E5, and suddenly it's possible.
Yeah, actually, this reminds me a lot of a game myself against Jan Krzysztof Duda in the Champions Chess Tour final in Oslo in 2021. And spoiler alert, the tour final is coming back to Oslo in just a few weeks. So
Yes.
tune into that or go to that if you're in Norway. Where I had sort of the same configuration where I had the light square bishops, the pawns on the same squares, and I had the pass pawn on the queen side. So even though he was a rook for a bishop up, it wasn't easy to win. And at that point, I remember like I knew that I was worse, but I wasn't that worried in the game. And that sort of that makes more sense to me when Gukesh was talking about how he didn't feel the danger and so on. But we'll get to that. I agree with Levy. Watching this was honestly like it was infuriating. Why would you go King E1 and then not King D2 on the next move? Basically, Queen D2 gives the same position as you could have with the Queen D2, except that you just allowed knight E5 for no reason whatsoever. This was he must have missed something concrete. Um, I'm thinking maybe it was the move knight takes D3 if he'd gone Queen D8 and then Queen takes A5. Instead of King D2 there. But yeah, this moment honestly it wreaked a bit of nerves, and it was the one weak decision he made after a lot of great decisions. As you said, Levy, I agree. King E1 was a great practical decision since the king feels a bit better on D2 than other squares, and using it to protect the rook makes a lot of sense. But this was baffling.
Baffling. And after this, we come into the situation where it could be move repetition. They move the queens. Everyone is wondering, oh no, will we have a draw by repetition? And then Gukesh shows fighting spirit. The whole world is yelling, fight, fight, fight. And Gukesh fights.
No,
Well,
but let's back up. Let's back up. No, let's back up until the move Queen D5. When Gukesh made that on move 40.
uh-huh.
Because now Ding has done the right thing. He's made it to move 40, with still an objectively winning advantage. Like those who check Sesta during the games, like they will see that. His advantage was objectively very, very big still. And it was like, I don't know, 1.5 on sun depth, which I think has to correspond to winning position, even though I didn't check it in depth. Apologies to those who did. But here, he spends no time on moving the queen back. Like, honestly, like, yeah, I know there are all sorts of reasons why you want to do this, but this is weak sauce. I don't know. This was not a great moment. And then, of course, we have the one moment which we will remember this game for, I think, more than anything else. And I've said in the past that a chess player should be somewhere between optimistic and delusional in their assessments. And this clearly was more on the delusional side for Gukesh, and he was kind of smiling about it afterwards that he felt that there was no danger, but maybe there was. Maybe in practical terms, there wasn't a lot of danger. And honestly, like I think his position is okay, but he's still the one who has to save the draw. But this just shows some of the also just disrespect that he's giving Ding. He just wants to, I don't know, he just wants to show him that, well, I can just like play on in any position and you're not gonna try and beat me.
Nepo here said that after he was like, okay, this is great, but rook c2, queen e6, let's go forward. Instead of playing like Ding did in the game, here you can play queen d6, and apparently after queen h3, bishop d4, the only thing that black has to do is sacrifice on f3. Like, I mean, it's like a very crazy sequence, and queen d6 is like much better for white.
Yeah, I saw that. It's um I mean it's a forced line where white is up a bishop, but black should
A
objectively
rook.
make a draw. Like there was th- yeah, there's one with where he's up a rook, but that one is sort of more straightforward since
Oh, okay, okay.
there are always perpetuals in the air. But there's another one where you go like queen d6, queen h3, queen f8 first, and then bishop d4, and then the white king can step up, and black has to take the rook. So you get the clear bishop down. It's still a draw, but there was no objective reason for Gukesh to to go for this. Which honestly, those are the decisions that they're a bit baffling, but they're also fascinating. I feel like you've seen Arjun do that a bit as well, that he just goes for crazy lines where it's like, well, one thing is taking risk, but like, dude, what are you hoping for? I think Anand called it like once called it playing for a win without any risk for your opponent. So yeah, I don't know.
Wait,
It
I'm
was
confused.
I'm not gonna
I thought you were going to be like, fantastic, Gukesh is playing on, he is fighting. But this was actually not a very good decision. Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm both like fascinated, horrified, all of it at the same time. I love it because it's fantastic content, and I'm not sure it's like a massively minus EV decision by any means. Um I think it was okay. It's just the objective evaluation of the position had nothing to do with it, and but I love the fact that he was like, yeah, I didn't think I was going to lose. But to quote another one of my longtime seconds, Laurent Fressinet, when he talks about chess, he likes to talk about the opponent factor, and I think this was a little bit based on that as well for Gukesh, that he simply like didn't think that Ding was going to try and beat him. Like Ding literally like he spent 2 seconds trying to repeat moves in a position that was objectively close or to winning or winning for him just 2 moves ago. So believing that the same guy is not going to try and beat him here, it's not unreasonable. But yeah, while his queen h4 in a couple of games ago was well remarkable, this one was 10 times crazier.
I kind of feel like Gukesh is actually listening to these post-game shows with you, or at least someone in the teams, because he does put on his boxing gloves, like you guys have requested, and he's swinging and he's trying to hit some punches. But Ding, are you disappointed with Ding today?
But Levy literally said a few recaps ago that he should not pick a fight just for the sake of it. So
That's true, actually.
clearly, clearly, if he is listening, he's tuning into the parts that he sort of agrees with and just tuning out everything else, which I think a lot of people, frankly, do these days, even more than before. But it's just this was just fascinating, and it's just um. Yeah, I don't completely get it. But yeah, you love to see it.
100%. All right, are there more moves to address, or should we talk about the MVP and the piece of beep?
No, but I will. Yeah, I don't know, Magnus. I will just say it was quite funny when the second time control began, and we can go forward. He took the pawn, etc. I had a meeting, and I wanted to bump it up by 1.5 hours. I said, "Oh, they're going to play the second time control," and then right away I look, and the game is literally over. Like the next 5 moves just happen immediately, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I gotta get back and record a video. Then we have to plan this recap, and it's pretty funny. Like it just went away so fast. So could it have gone any longer?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, the position was objectively equal at that point, even though it felt like Gukesh had to play a little bit better in order to make the draw. But it was clear that once Ding had the chance to chop off the queens and just force a draw, he was going to do it. So yeah, I was also a little bit surprised that the game was going to end so quickly. But once I saw the move Queen G2, it was clear. It was clear that the game was going to be over.
Yeah. Game 8 was a draw. They are still tied, Gukesh and Ding. And are you ready now to name let's start with the MVP.
I think Ding's Darths with Bishop, honestly. I think like from going from just going from like an inauspicious beginning, he made a lot of moves with it, and they were all really, really good. At least practically speaking, when he played the move Bishop B2, even though it's not great, I think it was his only practical chance. And then yeah, Bishop B3, and then capturing the knight and so on. Black's Queen, of course, had a fantastic career, so a bit of a shout out to that as well.
For me, it's probably the Black Knight. Although I'm kind of mixing up which is which because they replaced each other at some moment. So the knight that ultimately took was the knight that was on e7, g6, e5, d7, c5. I'm looking at its journey. Yeah, I feel like for me it's that one, right? I mean, it made the first kind of new move. It took on e7 in the opening, then it danced around the whole game, then it like took the rook at the end. So I'll give it to the Black Knight. We can. I think it did a good job.
Okay. We have a couple MVPs.
Yeah, I don't hate that one either. But overall, I think just give the MVP to the players for the fight.
Oh, I love that. 2 MVPs in Singapore. But we have to also name a piece of beep. And I'm saying beep because we're live on Twitch, and we might get banned if we say that word.
Trust me, you won't.
Okay.
I've watched Magnus streams. I'm also very liberal with my language when I'm streaming. So I don't know. What was the bad piece this game?
Yeah, well, we like the symmetry, so let's give it to the other knight that lost most of Gukesh's advantage and was eventually captured.
That knight made only 2 moves, and one of them was terrible. So
Yeah.
there you go.
It was on the edge, then it moved from the edge, and it lost basically its entire advantage. I think that's a good shout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. What a game, you guys. Like, how do we describe this game in a word? What's the headline for game 8 here?
Now, a lot of people talk about crazy games. So this was by any stretch a crazy game. But I also like the quote by Grandmaster Yudasin of I think New York in America, that he doesn't like that term at all. He likes to say that the players were crazy, which I think they were, but the game was fun. So I think that's the way to sum it up.
That is a crazy name drop because he plays so many of these close tournaments here in New York, and he and I will frequently speak in Russian. And every tournament I meet him, he tells me a story. Like last time, he compared one of my games in the tournament to a tournament he played in Leipzig, in that's either in Germany or Austria. I don't want to like mix up which. It sounds
It's
like
in
it's German,
Germany.
but so it sounds like it could be German, but I never want to like make that mistake and seem too American. And yeah, he was like, "Oh, I went to like a little wine bar and had a little wine." And his favorite quote now is, "My head wasn't working," because he's getting older. So now, anytime he plays a game, he's like, "Oh, my head wasn't working." And yeah, I don't know if the word that I can use. I don't know if there's one word, but unpredictable. Like this match is very unpredictable. I wake up in the morning and I go, "Oh my god," and then 20 minutes later I'm like, "Oh my god," and an hour later I'm like, "What is going on?" So as a spectator, I'm having a great time. I don't think the players might be having as good of a time as me though.
Yeah, they were actually asked that in the press conference today if they were having fun, and neither said yes. They were like, "It's okay." I guess it's very tense. Like you've been here, Magnus. As a player, do you actually enjoy the situation?
Yeah, so the thing about this match, and I think was the case with the previous match as well, is that neither player is. I think Ding would want to control the match, but he's not capable, and Gukesh doesn't want to control the match. He would like to, but he's not. But he's not like actively trying to. And I don't think he's necessarily capable either. And that's sort of what makes this match really fascinating, that both players they have good moments, they have weak moments, but the way it goes, like fights are going to be inevitable. Like I'm guessing there must come a point where Gukesh feels like the stakes are a little bit too high to take the kind of risks he did today. But as long as he's willing to take them, like this match is going to be extremely fascinating. But a lot is dictated by him. Uh, if Gukesh offered at this point, let's make six draws and go to tiebreak, like Ding would take the offer before he could even finish his sentence.
Then
So
then the question
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, then the question becomes, Magnus, like for a long time, there was this narrative about Fabiano, and he even addressed it recently. Like, Fabiano's better at classical chess than rapid and blitz. Some, back in the day were even saying, like, much, much better. He's a totally different player. Uh, what does Gukesh fancy his chances in a rapid tiebreak against Ding? And what does Ding fancy his chances, right? Like, he has less time to overthink in a rapid, and he will not get into such a deep time trouble, I would imagine. So does Gukesh sort of dispel all of these like notions that he needs time to calculate? Does he think he can outplay Ding in a rapid playoff?
Well, he hasn't done anything in his career to suggest that he is very good at rapid. So he's a very confident young man, so I'm sure he believes that he can do very well there, but we're sort of looking at the facts at our that are available right now, and yeah, for now, nothing much suggests that that's a good format for him. But yeah, in an individual match, anything can happen, and I think he would think, well, if I have to play tiebreak, I'll have to play tiebreak, but I don't think it's anything he wants or should want.
Well, the score is 4-4 after 8 games. Game 9 coming up tomorrow. Do you think they will keep up this entertaining pace, or will it slow down again? Tomorrow is white pieces for Gukesh. What do you expect?
I don't think Ding has a choice, Magnus. I think tomorrow he will have to defend.
Yeah, I think basically almost every white game that Kukesh has played, there have been mutual chances. Well, the last one, Ding really only had to defend, but we're gonna see a fight for sure. So it's gonna be great. This was the first white game which Ding had where the balance was really much disturbed at all. So that was great to see. Um, and definitely kudos to Gukesh for making that happen. But yeah, tomorrow is going to be. I feel like now, like for each game that passes and the match is still tied, we're just thinking like the next game next game. Like next game is the most hotly anticipated game, and yeah, it's a great sporting event at the moment.
Fantastic. Final words. Levy and Magnus, thank you so much for your enthusiasm and insight into Game 8. We'll see you again tomorrow after Game 9. And remember, everyone, to download the Take app to get notified when Game 9 starts, and especially when we have action in the game. That's what our two pundits expect for Game 9. We will see you again tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
We have two players and we have no idea what to expect from.
He has the spark which we see in champions.
They've been waiting for this moment for so long.
From the time when I was a little kid.
I haven't lost to him in classical.